Now, one of the biggest factors of any Battlefield game is of course its setting. Whether it's a return to World War II, a dive into the trenches of Europe, or piloting from the cockpit of a futuristic jet, the setting of each game's conflict is much more essential to Battlefield than just about any other military shooter. Like, no matter the setting, Call of Duty will always feature the exact same kill streaks, similar gadgets, and goofy cosmetics. However, Battlefield has always taken its setting with more responsibility. Whether it's the real-world locations of Battlefield 1 or the tactile feel of Battlefield 3's weapons, each game has always made an effort to stay consistent with its settings and thus its gameplay. And speaking of gameplay, perhaps one of the most overlooked details of the reveal was that of the featured weapons. From quad-rail M4s to traditional RPGs, this little bit of gameplay shined a spotlight on something I was very hopeful to see. Hints that the game will be much more grounded than 2042. But like always, before we get into today's video, hit subscribe and drop a like to keep the algorithm happy. And with that, let's jump into it and see what we can learn from Battlefield's first reveal. Kicking things off, while I do work as a designer and art director, I actually have a lot of time with firearms. As someone who carries, competes in trap shooting, and has grown up with a lot of enlisted friends and family, the few glimpses of weapons we got to see during the reveal were really important to me. Now, while there's not a ton of evidence to go on, the few things I want to mention seem to be very positive news for anyone who wants a more boots-on-the-ground experience. So to kick things off at the very beginning of the video, let's break down our first look at the game's M1 Abrams. Right at the beginning of the gameplay, we're immediately met with one of the most iconic Western main battle tanks of all time. This classic Abrams rolls in left to right and showcases some interesting features. First up, while the top-mounted turret appears to be remote controlled, a relatively new upgrade on this decades-old platform, the tank is also missing any sort of reactive armor, something that's rather common today, but I'm left to believe would be a player-chosen upgrade that we're not seeing here. And while these upgrades might not give us an exact date or conflict, it's nice to see it's in fact an Abrams, not some futuristic nonsense. But moving on to our biggest highlight, we got that M4 right front and center. Now, the M4 and M16 platforms have been around for decades, each generation improving over the other, with small, sometimes barely noticeable changes. However, with this example, I think there's some very obvious features that can date this rifle. First off, this is a quad-rail system with a full vertical grip, features that have been going out of style over the past decade, now being replaced by M-lock systems with lighter, tighter handguards, with foregrips that offer a more aggressive C-clamp position for the forward hand. A nice example of a more modern rifle is something like this Daniels Defense M4V7. Note the tighter, lighter M-lock, which features a lot more coverage over the barrel. It's also worth mentioning the game's rifle features a metal magazine and flip-up iron sights, which are almost identical to Colt's improved M4A1, which came into service around 2010. Match those features up with the chunky EOTech holographic, and I'd bet we're looking at a mid-2010s M4. Throw in the classic RPG-7 and the fact it appears these Western forces are wearing that somewhat classic multicam camo pattern, and I think the next Battlefield is set around the beginning of the 2010s. No fancy attachments, very little padding or accessories on the soldiers' kits, and hints of 2010s era weapons that may hint to an early War on Terror timeframe, just past the events of the Gulf War and perhaps early into the war in Afghanistan is where DICE seems to be taking inspiration from. Now, will DICE and the developers actually choose to tell a story about real conflicts in the Middle East? Almost certainly not, but they seem to be doing a nice job of capturing a very similar vibe to Battlefield 3. A gritty, boots-on-the-ground infantry experience, although it does look like we're still getting some cool, realistic customization. Overall, while my analysis might not be perfect, the fact we're looking at more analog, tactile combat is a huge positive in my book. No reference to drones, fancy wall hacks, or specialist-style abilities, just good old modern military combat, just like they said during the reveal. But guys, drop those comments below and tell me what you think. For all things Battlefield and Delta Force, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.